It's like, do I remember how to do this? Jesus Christ.
Came from the pain and made it out of Banner. Drove and see the nightlife where they call Atlanta. Southside shows for a couple dollars, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Brew Party Podcast, episode 109. Yes, I just had to look that up because I did not remember until there was 8 seconds left in that intro. But we are here, your host that definitely doesn't know the most, Andy Hopper, joined by, let me tell you folks, two OG guests of this podcast, two long-time friends of the show, two incredible people. It is ladies' night on the Brew Party. We're talking an NFL draft with Sam Cardona and Sporty Jordyn from their brand new podcast, the Unsolicited Pod, out now. 2 episodes out now?
Yep.
As of the recording of this, wherever you get your podcasts. Ladies, thank you so much for being here. I think not last year we didn't do a draft show, but in 21 we did a draft preview show. So it's kind of like a tradition on the pod at this point. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having us, Andy. It's been, like we were talking about before, this has been a hot minute, so I'm very excited to be here. I'm excited to be here with Jordyn, too. We love coming on the Brew Party, I think. It's always a blast.
No, I love getting the gang back together. I was so excited for this, so thank you so much for having us on.
Absolutely. So before we jump in, tell us a little bit about the new pod.
Jordyn, take it away.
Okay, yeah. So we just put out our second episode, videos on YouTube, audio available wherever you get podcasts, Google, Apple, Spotify. Our socials are all over the place. I don't even know if I can name them right now. Twitter's at Sam and Jordyn. Mm-hmm. Instagram is at unsolicited_pod. TikTok is at the unsolicited_pod, talking all things NFL, a lot of Taylor Swift. Pop culture, life events, just a fun place to hang out and kind of get your feelings out. So we're super excited about it.
I love it. I love to, one, get the band back together. Two, love that you guys are now collaborating on a podcast here. Feels like it was a long time coming. Always, like you said, it was always fun coming on this podcast. It was always an event. When you two ladies jumped on the mic together. So now we're going to get it weekly. I'm ecstatic about it. NFL, Taylor Swift, best mix in the world. Am I right? Probably easier. Yeah, probably easier to get a ticket to an NFL game than a Taylor Swift concert at this point, but that's besides the point. I'll plug myself here really quick. Don't worry. I'm pretty much the same on all my socials. You guys might need to get that a little bit more streamlined.
We are actively trying.
Yeah.
So follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The Brew Party. We're on Facebook at The Brew Party Podcast, youtube.com/The Brew Party. Like, subscribe, comment on this video. Tell us what you think. Tell us who you want your team to pick in the NFL draft. We're going to go over a couple things here. Let's start with the QB class because I feel like it is the biggest topic so far in the draft, whether it's been, I don't know. I feel like people are talking a lot of shit about this QB class. It feels like a lackluster. I already saw this week somebody said the two top guys for 2024, Caleb Williams and Drake May, would be the first and second overall pick in this year's draft. Of course, that's not the case. So it very well seems like we're going to see Bryce Young out of Alabama as the number 1 overall pick. He is the heavy favorite at this point to be selected at that position. And then it's kind of like all the rest of the guys are bundled up. You've got CJ Stroud from Ohio State. You have Will Levis from Kentucky, Anthony Richardson from Florida, and Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. Those are really like the top 5. So I don't know if you guys saw this. There was actually a Reddit post that went viral this week saying that Will Levis was telling all of his family and friends that he was going number 1 overall. and his odds to do so jump from like 50-1 to like 4 or 5-1, like just a ridiculous jump. I think he actually came out today and said that was fake because, I mean, everybody should have known that because it was on Reddit in the first place. Yeah. But look, Jordyn, I'll start with you. Give me your thoughts on this quarterback class. Young, do you agree it's kind of young at the top and then quite a bit of space in between the rest?
Yeah, no, I feel like Young and CJ Stroud are pretty neck and neck. Young slightly above, and then everyone else kind of in this other tier. Now, I'm a little biased here. I'm a big Florida Gators fan. So obviously been a fan of Anthony Richardson for a while. Yeah, go Gators. So I know people are pretty kind of hit or miss on him. They're either really, really in or really, really out. I'm in, as like I've been watching him for a long time, and it's very rare. Like normally for college football, it's like I know these quarterbacks in their junior, senior year, right about to be drafted. So I've been watching Anthony Richardson for a little while, and there are things to work on. He's not this perfect quarterback, but I think the ceiling for him is very, very high, put in the right system. And I think with a good coach and good pieces around him, I think there's a lot there. So heavy rooting for him. But I don't know, when you go down to like Hendon Hooker and Will Levis, I think there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think they're definitely going to go in the first round. I think we are going to see these top 5 quarterbacks go on night 1. But I don't know. I feel like they're going to go because they're there, but I'm not too sold on them. And also, I'm not super sold on Bryce Young. I think there's a lot of good pieces there, but I also think, and like, I hate to bring up height, especially like I'm 5 foot tall. I'm not going to judge you for being on the shorter size, but we are starting to see some issues with height in Kyler Murray. And I understand the upside, and I understand how smart of a football player Bryce Young is. And I want to say that the height really doesn't matter, but I think that it could cause issues down the road. So I don't know. I think there's red flags for every single one of these top quarterbacks. And I think the fact that leading up to draft day, Bryce Young feels like the number 1 overall, but there's still talks about CJ. I mean, there's talks about Will Levis, which I don't understand at all, but I think it's interesting. I don't really know what to expect. Sam, what are your thoughts?
I think that this is one of the most chaotic quarterback classes I've experienced in a while. I love the fact that Will Levis's odds went up. Andy, I looked it up just because I knew that you would like this. I confirmed it. His NFL comparison is Jay Cutler, which is just money. And I think that it explains it explains the banana video. It explains the weird Reddit post. It explains everything. I mean, the man is like a little bit odd. Honestly, I agree with Jordyn. I'm not really sold on anybody. I mean, Bryce Young does have a college championship under his belt. He's coming out of Alabama. You know, he's not a bad quarterback because he's coming out of Alabama. I think it's really funny how CJ Stroud he was in that 1 spot for so long. And I think it's so funny that he dropped down because of that test. Like these like scores came out about this like IQ test of some kind. Yeah. And how he basically was just like, I'm not a test taker. And we were like, it sounds like you don't know how to work a football field. Like, yes, maybe you have like the physical talent, but like there's a lot of mental things that go into being an NFL quarterback, obviously. So I think that that's really important to, you know, despite being a test taker or not, you know, you need to make fast decisions on the field and whatnot. Because I was fully convinced CJ Stroud was going to be a Carolina Panther, like
you
weeks ago. I thought that was
say it. I'm going to say it. I still think he should be.
Honestly, yes. I literally had that. I was like, I still feel like the night of the draft, it's going to be some crazy thing that's going to happen. Everyone's going to expect Bryce Young, and CJ Stroud is still going to go first overall. It's very, very strange. I think Hendon Hooker would have been at the top if it wasn't for the injury. I really enjoyed watching Hendon Hooker play last year. That Tennessee-Alabama game was one of the best football games I think I've ever watched on television in my life. And that includes that Monday night game with the Rams and the Chiefs. Do you remember that?
In Mexico City? Yeah.
Insane.
It was mustard versus ketchup for the jerseys, the color rush.
Yeah.
So I think you guys brought up a lot of really good points, a lot of interesting points. Sam, I'm going to start with the Stroud thing. So yeah, so that's basically, so for a very long time before the draft, teams would give out the Wonderlic test, right? To basically test these guys' IQ in certain situations. I guess for the past like 5-ish years, a lot of teams have moved towards what's called this S2 cognition test, which is what CJ Stroud took, and he scored like an 18 out of 100, which is like one of the lowest scores of all time. And so they compared it, like they looked at other quarterbacks, who have taken that test, and they said, so not all of the guys that scored super high on the test necessarily had a bunch of success in the NFL, but nobody that scored low ever had like any success on it or has yet to. So, but then the crazy part about that is you go back to the college football playoff and you watch the way that Stroud just absolutely shredded the Georgia defense, which is essentially an NFL defense. They got so many guys.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I'm just really interested to see what's going on, or what is not only what's going on, but what it's going to look like for him on the field. I've seen mocks that have, Young 1, Stroud 2. Now they're talking Stroud. The Texans might not even take Stroud. They've been linked to Tyree Wilson. Stroud dropping all the way down to 4 or 5. They're talking about Richardson stock dropping to move over to what you were talking about, Jordan, because Richardson, like everybody, it seems like, is just salivating over something you hit on, his potential and his ceiling. He might have the highest ceiling of any of these guys, just purely based on his physical tools. And like you watch the workouts and you get, the hype. If you watch him play at Florida, what I believe he only started like a total of 13 games. So, he's football young. So he doesn't have all those starts, doesn't have all that experience under your belt. Typically, that's not, I don't love that if I'm an NFL scout, to be honest with you. But you just look at this guy and you're like, oh yeah, I think he has it. He gets into the right situation. He's got a lot of room to grow. So I feel like he's a guy, I don't know, you take him, I think he'd be best suited to sit behind a veteran for a year, and then you kind of see what you have after year 2, get him in the system for a year and just let him fully grow, because you hit it. His potential is insane. He's like a ball of clay that you kind of just got to mold into that.
He reminds me of a very interesting combination of Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen.
I thought you were going to say Justin Herbert, because I'm thinking of Justin Herbert.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I'd love that. So,
because he's got this, he's like a fast Justin Herbert in my brain. Because that kid's got a cannon. Have you seen the way that kid throws the ball?
He hit the ceiling on his pro day.
Yeah. And that kid, he's so fast. What was it? It was like a 4.43, right? Something like that.
Just insane.
Like crazy.
And speaking of pro, Will Levis had that 50-yard throw from his knees that hit the crossbar that people were freaking out about. I do want to remind everybody, Jamarcus Russell had a bunch of these throws too, and we all saw that how that worked out. Show me the in-game stuff, and that's what I'm really going to take most of my stock on. So let me ask you this: are we kind of a consensus here? If you had to take one of these quarterbacks and tell me which one of them is going to have the best career, which one would you pick? Sam, I'll start with you.
Honestly, the best career?
Yeah.
I honestly think it's Anthony Richardson.
That's kind of what I was going to say with the consensus, because I think he's got the potential, if he can figure it out.
Yeah.
That can be dangerous. Very, very, very dangerous. So, Jordan, you kind of said this. How many QBs taken in the first round? Do we think it's 5? Do we think more?
I think I would really be shocked if these quarterbacks really start to fall. I think guaranteed 4. I'm thinking all 5 are going to go.
Sam, you agree?
I slightly. I think at least 4 are going to go. I do think Hendon Hooker's going to drop to round 2 because of his injury, which is
His injury
unfortunate
history.
because he does have an amazing talent to play football, but like I don't even think that he's doing anything right now. Like he's still in recovery. So I think that he's going to drop a little bit because I mean, think about last year. I mean, teams weren't really looking for quarterbacks, but Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback to go in the first 2 rounds. So like,
Yeah, I had
wouldn't
a
be
prop
surprised if
bet
they let
last
him go.
year. I had a prop bet last year under 3 quarterbacks taken in the first round. I was like, this is
Lock it in.
risky. And then halfway through, I was like, oh, I'm freaking golden. Like,
I love that. That's how I know where we get along is we're betting on things like the NFL draft.
Yeah.
So let's shift a little bit. First non-quarterback taken. Who do you guys have? Most likely, I would think it's a defender. Who do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's either going to be Tyree or Jalen Carter, but leaning more towards Tyree at this point.
So, yeah, like I said earlier, there's a little bit of smoke around Tyree going 2 to the Texans.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Texans do pull the trigger on Stroud, you could see him go anywhere after that, 3, 4. Carter's an interesting one, right? Because of all of the concerns, with the off-field stuff. But then you watch him play and you watch him really turn it on, and he probably is the most talented player in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about him potentially falling all the way to the Bears at 9, and I tell you what, that gets me a little hot and bothered because I would love that. But I don't know. What do you guys think about Carter? I don't know when the last time we saw a prospect like this that could legitimately go 1 overall if there wasn't all the off the field stuff. But now they're talking about him potentially falling out of the top 10.
Yeah. It's tough because the off the field stuff is obviously so important. But if you're looking at talent, and I mean, I have the Eagles sitting at 10 right now, and if you have Jalen Carter and Brian Robinson both available at 10, then there's going to be some questions. But I think talent-wise, yeah, anyone's lucky to get them. But obviously, I mean, you're taking a gamble. But that seems to be the vibe of this whole draft. It's like, oh my God, there's like with all these guys, I feel like there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of potential, but it's like, yeah, but there's a lot of baggage or a lot of red flags. So I think this year it just feels like weighing out what risks you're willing to take. And that's going to come down to the organization to make their decision.
Yeah. Because it's not just off the field stuff, it's injury stuff. It's a lot of different things. And I feel like this stuff off the field, like it's not like you can't just ignore it. Like it's like he's probably going to bring that with him to the NFL. So you have to consider, 1, can you handle it? 2, can you deal with it? PR people, all that kind of good stuff. I honestly think that it all depends on whether or not Arizona trades back at 3 of who ends up going first, because I think if Arizona stays at 3, I think they take Will Anderson. And if they do trade back, then Jalen Carter goes at 5 to Seattle. That's my prediction. But it all depends on that number 3 pick.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it. We're getting deep. I'm so excited for this draft.
I think it's going to be pure chaos. Me and Sam are actually going to be together in person, watching the draft, making content. So it's going to be, I'm hoping a lot of screaming because I'm ready for the trades. I'm ready for the surprises. Give it all to us.
Absolutely. I'm going to be on the review and preview draft show with our buddy Tom Fonz and Brian McCardle. So us 4 are going to be holding it down, streaming the entire first round. We've got some guests coming on, some fun stuff planned for that too. So check that out on all of the review and preview platforms. It'll be on Facebook and YouTube, streaming live, I believe. Getting back to this conversation. So there's Carter, there's Will Anderson. You mentioned it. It's a lot of it's dependent on what Arizona does. I heard they really do want to move back.
Also, I need to be there.
Yeah.
They really don't.
Because, I mean, they can move back. They can get an O-lineman, I think, is what they're looking at. And then, obviously, for that number 3 pick, you can get quite a bit of compensation back there. So they're at the point where, you just got a new coach. I believe just a new GM, too. you're kind of at I don't know if they're at a full tear it down mode, but you're in rebuilding process right at the moment. So I think that makes sense to trade down and kind of just collect as many assets, as they call it, as possible. If they were to trade down, who do you guys think would be trying to move up?
Titans.
And who would and the Titans moving up to take a quarterback?
Anthony Richardson.
Oh.
Yep. Raiders.
To take who?
Really?
Richardson.
Oh.
I mean, honestly, it's a perfect. They got Jimmy G. I mean, he's kind of a 1 or 2 year thing, maybe. I don't know. I think Richardson's a really good insurance policy for them. And Andy, like you said, and as someone who loves Richardson, I think best case scenario is sitting for a year, watching the game, learning the rhythm of the NFL. And obviously Jimmy G isn't like the best guy to learn from, but I mean, he's a veteran and he's a great guy.
Played in the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Like, I don't know, the way he handled the whole Trey Lance situation where he was like, yeah, I'm just going to sit back and be there for him. I think Anthony Richardson could use that. And I don't know, Raiders need a momentum change. If they want to be good long-term, I think it would be a really good move for them.
I love that.
I like how excited you got, like when she went into that, Sam. You're like, hands were on your chest, like you couldn't believe it. Like
I could sit here and listen to Jordyn talk about football all day.
Absolutely.
That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
Why do you think Jordyn and I talk so much? We literally just stare at each other and talk about football.
Yeah, I'm like, tell me all your thoughts, your inner workings.
I love it. The inner workings of my mind are an enigma. So give me your guys' who can't miss. Let's talk can't miss prospects. Do you have one in mind? Do you have a couple guys that, because a big thing in this draft, especially when you're talking about quarterbacks, but it's true for every position, is the situation that they're getting drafted into. Let's face it, there are teams in the league that run their organizations quite a bit better than certain other ones. They're, like we just said, the Cardinals are in a pretty rough spot as far as their roster construction goes right now. They are not the only ones. I mean, my team, the Bears, they're trying to build it back up at this point too. So I mean, it all depends on where you go, who you're being coached by, who's in front of you, who's behind you, all that stuff. Do you guys have a can't miss prospect? You have a couple guys. Who do you think? Doesn't matter where they go, this guy's going to come in and make an impact and be a star. Sam, I'm going to start with you.
I think I'm going to say the same thing that Jordyn is thinking. Is it Bijan?
Yes!
I saw her making the B, and I was like, I'm going to say the same thing that she's saying. Yeah, Bijan is, I feel like running backs recently are just not getting the love that they deserve, and Bijan is like an insane. I think he's a better Saquon, in my opinion. He's younger, he's faster, he's stronger in every way. And I think I would love if he ended up in Buffalo because they desperately need that. But honestly, anywhere that he ends up, Bijan's just going to be running all over the place. And he should be a running back one coming straight out the gate, in my opinion. But what do you think, Jordyn?
Yeah, no, I think he said it to the Eagles to where he was like, do not look at me as a running back. Look at me as a difference maker or playmaker. But just the way he talks about himself and the way, I don't know, his mindset and his, like, that to me matters so much, especially with these rookies. Because what every rookie you're going after, you're taking a gamble, and we do it every year. We hype up these players, and then it usually ends up being someone that we don't normally talk about that often around draft time that ends up being the guy. Bijan Robinson, I do think, is that exception. I think he is not only fantastic physically and athletically, but I think his mindset for the game, it just stands out. And I think that's what's going to make him that next level player. And yeah, running backs are not getting the love. They're not getting these second contracts. And I like to give some love back to the running back name. And I think Bijan does that.
Absolutely. That was not who I was expecting you guys to say. So I love that. Love that answer. My can't miss. I think it's either one of, I think Will Anderson is there. I'm really biased, but my guy, Devin Witherspoon, top cornerback in the draft from Illinois.
I love him.
Super high on him.
Christian Gonzalez also on my list as a cornerback, as somebody who's just going to be like insane.
Sure. I think I can't miss. Yeah, I think Anderson Jr., you look at just what he was able to do in the SEC and the amount of games that he started and went against offensive linemen that are now in the NFL is really impressive. So I'm going to go Anderson Jr. for mine and then throw my guy Witherspoon in there as well. So if we're talking about can't miss, I got to throw this one out there. And again, it's so hard to predict this kind of stuff, right? Like we're not going to know until we see them actually on the field. That's why the draft is so fun. Give me your biggest bust. Who has the biggest bust potential? Jordan, I'll start with you.
I'm going to say Will Levis.
I was going to say that.
Of course you were.
I was going to say that too. You can't trust the motherfucker that puts mayo in his coffee. That's disgusting.
No. Like going back to what I said about Bijan Robinson, how like dynamic in your mindset, it matters. I don't trust anyone that puts mayo in their coffee. But like actually, like I understand the hype around being like a first round pick, but this talk about him going 1 or 2 overall, I think is absolutely ridiculous. I do think a team is going to take a chance on him, but I don't
Colts
know.
At 4.
No
I don't know. I feel a Sam Darnold career coming out of Will Levis.
I love that.
Which isn't good.
What do you think about the take that he is too shredded to be good?
I have not heard that.
Well, if you did,
ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
Dude, he's fucking yoked. Like he looks insane.
Well, tell him to stop putting mayo in his freaking coffee.
And don't eat a banana peel. It's weird.
Mayo in his coffee. Eats bananas with the peel on them. He does some other weird. He does some other weird shit too. He did do a good interview on Pardon My Take. I think it was about a year ago, where he like came clean about all that shit. It was just like even hearing him say like mayo and coffee, I do it every morning, makes me want to fucking gag. But anyway, let's talk about something that's not
unhinged behavior.
Yeah, let's talk about something that's not fucking disgusting. It's nice that he was all of our biggest bust potential. I love that. Yeah. So we are 3 huge football fans. Obviously, we are all fans of 3 different teams. So let's talk about that a little bit. Jordan, let's start with you. Couple questions here. You are an Eagles diehard. Mm-hmm. What is the Eagles' biggest need in this draft? What do they need to address the most starting Thursday?
I have a couple that I think are all like I would be very happy with any of these. I think our biggest needs are defensive tackle, safety probably sneaking up to my number 1, and then running back. So I say this lightly because I've said this before, but I mean, Howie's really done an absolutely fantastic job the last 2 years. I'll give him credit for. But yeah, I think there's a lot of guys. I think if we take best of at any of those, I say it's a successful draft.
Absolutely. Give me your prospect that you'd be absolutely over the moon with getting. Who do you want the most?
One of the guys that I'm legitimately obsessed with that I would cry if we get, Brian Branch. I think he's fantastic. I think he fills a void that we definitely need. And I honestly think there's going to be movement. I don't think the Eagles are going to stay at 10, whether we trade up or trade back, or if we pull an AJ Brown situation from last season to make a move. I don't know. I don't know what exactly is on the table, but I have a feeling the Eagles have something up their sleeve, and I think it will depend on how early these quarterbacks start moving. I think if the quarterbacks do start falling and a lot of these defensive guys and position players are getting taken early, then the Eagles are definitely going to move and do something, whether, like I said, whether it's forward or back. I think if the quarterbacks go bing, bang, boom, like off the board and these guys start to fall, Jalen Carter starts to fall, then we got some questions. I'm so torn on Bijan Robinson and Eagles Twitter. I see it all the time. It's very, the Eagles have to take Bijan Robinson, or it's like, no, don't do it. Because behind our O-line, any decent running back is going to be good. But I don't know. I'm kind of falling more in love with the idea of having Bijan Robinson the more as the draft gets closer.
I can't blame you for that one. He
Yeah.
is electric. Sam, our resident Giants fan. But although I do see the Bills pennant back there, which one is it?
I got it at the Bills game that I went to last year. So that's why I have a Choose Love towel too down here. We're currently on a Josh Allen. Not allowed to like him right now because he cheated on his girlfriend. So
that's confirmed.
Confirmed. Her birthday cake said #MHWN, which literally means my husband would never. And it's for girls who have been cheated on in relationships.
100% happened.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the reason why they put up 10 points in the game against the Bengals.
Yeah.
But anyway, NFL draft, Giants. For the love of God.
Yeah, biggest needs.
Cornerback, please. For like all of humanity, please. I know people are talking about wide receiver at 25. I would actually prefer, I think that this wide receiver class is going to drop into a second round, and at, I think we have 89 or no, 57. I think that that's a perfect place to just get another receiver there. Nathaniel Dell, Josh Downs, any of those guys that are on the lower tier. I know people are talking about Zay Flowers at 25. I wouldn't hate it, but I think that we should focus on a corner because right now the best corner on our team is Adoree Jackson because we lost Julian Love. The Eagles ripped James Bradbury away from me last year. So
we played them.
We're just struggling in the secondary a bit. I think in terms, I'm being rational and thinking in terms of our position and what we will have when that time comes. I'm thinking I'm focusing in on Cam Smith, the cornerback, or Joey Porter. Either one, I'm okay with. I know Cam Smith. First of all, he's like an animal, but also I know that he like gets a ton of penalties and stuff like that. But things like that can be worked on. I'm not really like too worried about that. But again, I'd rather get the corner at 25, a better corner, and then get like, you know, a Rashee Rice or something later down the line. Even in the third round, I could see him dropping. So that's my hope. We also need a linebacker help, a center. We need a center. We don't have a center. So if any of those guys end up like later down the line, but first round, I would prefer a corner, but.
And then who's in your heart of hearts, you're most excited if the Giants draft blank? Is there a guy? Do you have a specific guy in mind that you'd be like over the moon about, or is it kind of just whoever, you know, best available at the time fills the need?
I just don't think that being so low, we're like no person's really going to drop to us. Giants Twitter is one of the worst Twitters in the history of the world, and they're talking about drafting Bijan Robinson, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, please remove your head from your ass and figure it out. So I would love just get a corner. Like, I would prefer just get a corner. That's what I want. Doesn't matter who it is.
All righty. Well, I love it. Great answers from both of you there. So now you guys get to hear me whine about my team. So the Bears, we are picking at 9. We did have the number 1 overall pick. We traded that to Carolina for DJ Moore.
How'd you feel about that, by the way?
I loved it. I fucking loved it. It was perfect. We didn't need like the guy that we would have picked at 1. Well, I don't necessarily know if he'll be there at 9, but it's like what they did. They got their number 1 receiver that they needed. They needed another weapon. And then you just got like 3 or 4 more picks. Mm-hmm. So you filled one of your biggest needs, and then you just hoarded more picks, acquired more assets, more opportunities for you to either one, move back again. I don't see the Bears trying to move up because they just don't need to, or trade more of those picks like they did a bunch in last year's draft and just keep acquiring more. So I'll be interested to see, but so as of right now, they're picking at 9. There's a lot of smoke around Paris Johnson from Ohio State. They really, really do need to shore up that offensive line. You got to protect Justin Fields. He's going to be the centerpiece of the franchise, the centerpiece of the offense, obviously. Make sure you have guys that can keep him upright and keep him healthy and keep him in games. So you got to address the offensive line. I do think you need to go get somebody for the D-line as well, whether it's edge or on the inside. Secondary, it's not necessarily like the most needful group, but it would be nice to go get one of those guys. I think in a perfect world, Witherspoon's still available at 9 and the Bears take him. Even though I don't necessarily think like that's their biggest need. But you know, anytime I can be a homer and have an Illinois guy go up and play in Chicago, I'm all for that, especially because Witherspoon's projected to go at 6 to the Lions. So that'd be him and Kirby Joseph in back-to-back years getting picked by the Lions and having to root against them in my division. But anyway, yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking for the Bears. I think in a perfect world, like I'd be ecstatic with Jalen Carter. I would really be happy with either Skoronski or Johnson at 9. And then, like I said, yeah, if Witherspoon somehow falls there, which I don't think he'll be there, would be awesome. But anyway, so that's kind of what we're thinking for our respective teams. We're going to close it out here. Got a couple final questions. Do you guys actually watch the whole draft? Like, how much of the draft do you guys tune in for? I'm good for the first round. I'll follow day 2. Day 3, I'm in and out. If I need something to watch, I'm at home. It will be on. But what do you guys think?
I basically, round 1, I watched night 1, the whole thing till the end. Watched the first, like, intensely. I'll sit down at the start of 2, kind of like get in, and then I'm kind of in and out until the Eagles are picking. And then day 3, I like gauge when the Eagles are going to go and just watch their picks. And that's really what I'm paying attention to at that point.
Yeah, I'm about the same. Round 1, I'm like locked in.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to know. And I do hate the fact that round 1 is like 17 hours. Like you have to sit there and you're like, because I remember that one year that we did that draft show together, I don't think we finished till like 1 a.m.
No, it was, dude, I think we were on air for
like delirious. I didn't know
it was like 4 hours, maybe 5 hours.
Yeah.
I'm sure
People
I was
were
hammered.
Talking to me. Yeah. You remember you were like Asante Samuel, and I was like, who? I don't know. They were like, you don't know who Asante Samuel is.
That was such a
still
fun
will never
time,
get
though.
over the Eagles not taking Asante Samuel Jr.
Well,
it's fine.
He's on the Chargers. It's fine.
I know.
I do remember that too. I do remember you wanting him real bad. Would you guys go to the draft in person?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
I think the draft was in New York years ago, and I wanted to go.
It was in Philly fairly recently, and I did not go. I'm pretty sure I was still in college. But yeah, no, that's definitely on my bucket list. I would like to experience that at least once, especially a year if like the Eagles had like a good draft pick. I mean, honestly, this year would probably be a good year to go, but
I would have loved to have been at the Nashville one just to be at the time of like Nashville bachelorette parties and NFL.
Oh, they were
draft.
pissed. There were so many posts that went viral. There were bachelorette parties that
I
were
would
like,
have loved to see.
They were like, "What the fuck is this? This is bullshit. We came here for a girls' weekend, and it's just flooded with dudes in NFL jerseys."
You want to know what's so funny too? Is I was just talking to one of my maids of honor for my wedding, and she was like, "When do you want to go on your bachelorette trip?" And I was like, "Not the last week of April because that's the NFL draft." And she was like, you would plan your bachelorette party around the NFL draft.
Oh, absolutely.
I was like, I have to watch at least round 1.
Yeah.
Can't miss it.
It was in Chicago fairly recently too, and I didn't go. This last year, it was in Vegas. I was at a bachelor party. We were in Vegas the week before, and we were planning it where the best man was like, just so you know, this weekend would be the NFL draft, probably would be pretty expensive and pretty like as if it's not already fucking expensive, but even more expensive. So yeah, we better avoid that weekend, but it would have been pretty cool to be there for the draft. But that's all I got, ladies. This has been awesome. It's so good to talk to you guys, especially when we get to talk ball, because we know ball. If you guys couldn't tell that from listening to this, already, but it's Sam Cardona. It's Sporty Jordy from the Unsolicited Podcast. Nobody asked for this. Is the tagline. Plug yourself one more time. You guys got any draft? You said you're going to be together for the draft, filming content. This is going to be like a live stream, just videos we're posting after picks. What are we doing?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
We're definitely planning on vlogging. There's going to be a lot of content going out. I have a feeling we're going to do some TikTok live streams to some extent, but we're definitely going to get a bunch recorded to put out throughout the weekend. And you can find us, my personal socials at the Sporty Jordy everywhere. That one's universal. And then we have at unsolicited_podcast on Instagram, at the unlisted_podcast on TikTok, and at Sam and Jordyn on Twitter. And like I said, YouTube, the Unsolicited Podcast for video, and then audio wherever you listen.
I would say too, if you're looking up on YouTube, make sure to type in with Sam and Jordyn. That way it pops up at the top, because it is a little difficult to find right now. But we're
new. We're newborns.
You
just put out our episode 2 today, though. We do some NFL draft talk. We do some Taylor Swift talk. I tell a traumatic story about myself that happened last week. It's a fun time. It's like amazing.
All good stuff.
Jump into the world of Sam and Jordyn. You will not regret it. 100%. A lot of stuff going on the podcast. You guys are just getting rolling. You can't expect to be at the very top after 2 episodes. You'll get there. I promise you'll get there. Subscribe to the Unsolicited Podcast on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Do the same thing for the Brew Party, if you wouldn't mind. Like, subscribe, comment, give us a review, give us a rating if you're over on Apple Podcasts, or if you can do that on other platforms. I don't know. I use Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/The Brew Party, Facebook, Facebook at The Brew Party Podcast, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at The Brew Party, www.thebrewparty.com. It's got all of our episodes, links to social media, ways to listen, ways to watch, all of that good stuff. Follow the Twitter, follow the Instagram, follow us wherever. We appreciate it. We'll be back maybe next week. I don't know. I don't have it planned yet. That's not how I roll. If you've been listening for the 3 years that I've been doing this, you know that's not how I roll. We'll figure it out, though, probably by Monday. We'll see. This has been episode 109 of the Brew Party Podcast. Thank you so much to Sam and Jordyn for joining me for this NFL draft preview. Don't forget, check me out on the review and preview stream for the NFL draft. We'll be live for the entire first round. It's youtube.com/review and preview, I think, sports, or you can find them review and preview sports on Facebook. Really looking forward to it. Really had an awesome time here with Sam and Jordyn. We're out of here. I don't know what else to say besides great fucking episode, ladies. I love it. Who's back of the week? We are. Woo!
Let's go.
Fly will fly.
At the end, that's just going to be murder in people's ears. Appreciate it. Love you all. Have a good evening.